Dr. Matt Kneale is co-chair of the Doctors Association and a junior doctor. Thank you very much indeed for coming on the programme. I wonder whether you agree that locum payments are a waste of money.
I don't think I agree with that. I think ultimately the system is broken. I think we have to go back to the basics here and find out why we're in this position. So if you look at staffing in the NHS and retention of staff, it's poor, isn't it? You know, people are leaving left, right and centre, not just doctors, but nurses, healthcare assistants. Even in the care sector, people are leaving because pay is abhorrent. It's terrible. Now, locum pay is high. There's no getting around that. Okay, you hear these stories in the news about people earning £5,000 a shift. That is exceptionally rare. Okay, so what happens most of the time is people pay market rate, essentially. So like it would happen for an electrician, for a lawyer, like an architect, whatever. It's the market rate. We need doctors. We need not nurses in the NHS. We have to pay for them.
I wonder if you could, if you don't mind, sharing a bit of your experiences if you've worked as a locum doctor in the NHS. It must be very well known that you can clearly earn a lot more doing that than staff.
Absolutely. So I'll give you both sides of the coin. Yeah. Today I'm working as a junior doctor in GP, so I was an FY2 doctor, so I'm second year out of medical school, okay? So my monthly pay on this job is about £1,800 a month, after everything. That's what I take home for me, okay? Not a bad sum of money by any means. I know some people would love that amount of money, but when you consider the amount of training, the years of dedication that go through it to get to that stage, it's not a good amount of money, okay? Yeah. So you could do other careers that would pay far more. That's one side of the coin. But the other side is the locum work. Fine, it pays far in excess of that. I accept that. But there has to be an in-between, doesn't there? This is the problem with the government's own making. You know, if we're funding training places properly, we're paying doctors the rate that they should be earning whilst in training, the paying conditions are better. Maybe not to the extent of the locum rates, but that's what we need, isn't it? It needs to be an in-between.
I guess the cost associated with you being staff, though, is more than just your wage. And, you know, whether it's holiday pay, sick pay, pension contributions and the rest of it. Clearly, though, that isn't felt by you in your pay packet at the end of the month. You know, Actually, it might be if the NHS can spend £2.5 billion a year on locum staff, one might wonder, well, can it do a bit more internally in and of itself, rather perhaps not with a 19% increase as the RCN is asking, to pay its staff a bit more?
I think it's tricky, isn't it? You know, you look at the amount of money that we've spent on various things over the last kind of 5-10 years. When you look at the amount of money that's been wasted on COVID fraud or on test and trace failures, on consultants in private, sector for COVID, it blows us out of the water. You know, 2.5 billion looks like a tiny amount of money when you consider that in perspective. I'm not saying
sustainable. It's not sustainable.
It has to be. It's not sustainable to lose staff at this rate. You know, if we want to work in a system where we're not going to pay doctors and nurses appropriately, they are going to leave. They'll either work in private practice, in the UK, or, as is the case in a lot of cases, people move abroad. They go to Australia, New Zealand, Canada for far better rates. So if you want people to be able to treat your family and to, essentially provide a good service, they need to be remunerated properly.
And so properly is going to be, as you say, somewhere in the middle between what you're earning as staff and what you might earn as a locum doctor.
And it's half the battle, isn't it? You know, there's two elements to this. One part is pay. People think that their pay since 2008 is rapidly declining, essentially. If you look at the BMA figures from the study recently, it's about 26% we're looking at the moment for doctors' pay since 2008. That's one half of the story, but the other half is conditions. So in 2008, we're doing the same job now, but in far worse conditions. You look at the amount of burnout people are going through. Just in the news recently, we're looking at the trust in the UK had 3 or 4 suicides, in the last couple of years. This is a real big issue. It's not just about pay. It's about burnout. It's about conditions and staffing and everything coming together.
Does any part of you feel like when you're doing the locum shifts that you're ripping the NHS off somewhat?
No, I think actually it's the way around. I think the NHS is ripping off the goodwill of its staff. I don't mean that in the sense of the individual trust, but I mean that as a whole organisation, it could be doing so much more to support the well-being of its staff. That's partly to do with pay. It's to do with government funding. I accept that. But part of it is about working conditions.
Dr. Matt Kneale is co-chair. Dr. Matt Kneale